Hey, yo, what up, what up? Welcome back. There's not a podcast. It's just my thoughts with Rob Markman. Happy Monday. Shout out to everybody who's just been watching the channel, who's been liking, especially those who've been subscribing. Subscribers is getting up. We're going to try to get this thing to 40,000. So if you aren't subscribed and you're watching this and you enjoy watching this, please subscribe, man. Let's get that number up. It will help me out a lot. Today, I wanted to talk about my first favorite rapper. My first GOAT before I knew what a GOAT was, Slick Rick. All right. On Friday, he dropped a new album. It's called Victory. Dropped on Mass Appeal. Y'all heard me tell the story before if y'all watch the channel, but the Get Fresh crew, Slick Rick and Dougie Fresh, Lottie Dottie, was the first rap song that I learned the words to as a kid. Man, I was probably 6, 7 years old or something, first grade, schoolyard, PS 189 in Brooklyn. It was a must that you were able to go to school and rap along to that, like knowing the words, just being in the park, being in my neighborhood, being in, just amongst my friends. It was a must that you knew the words to that joint, right? So learn the words to Lottie Dottie just to rap it along in school. Then of course there was The Show was the other record that they had, but for me Lottie Dottie was the one. Then we got Mona Lisa a couple years later, Children's Story, Hang Your Own World, Teenage Love, The Great Adventures of Slick Rick. Classic album. And it's funny, I think like, damn, what attracted me to Rick so young? What made me a fan so young? Because it wasn't like he was necessarily making songs for kids, because a lot of those songs were not PG. I mean, they were kind of masked like they were for kids, like Hey Young World and Teenage Love and for sure, but Children's Story wasn't a PG record. Like Lottie Dottie was not a PG record. They were dirty records, but Rick as a character appeal to kids. And this was a time in hip hop where everybody kind of looked different, dressed a little different, like people were defined by their style. But it was Rick as a character. One, the calm tone that he rapped in, the British accent just made him stand out. The eye patch, the jewels and the rings, and just how regal he looked, the storytelling, the simplicity in his rhymes, but the picture that he painted and the way that it was really easy to follow along. For me, were all the things that kind of made me be like, yo, Slick Rick. Like, again, my first GOAT before I knew what a GOAT was. He dropped his second album, The Rulers, back in 1991, but he was found guilty of attempted murder. He was out on bail to do that album, but he was found guilty of attempted murder after he shot his cousin in 1990. And by the way, his cousin was trying to extort him and threaten him along the way and all of that. So he shot at his cousin. I think he also may have hit an innocent bystander. And Rick had to serve time. While he was in jail, he dropped another album called Behind Bars in 1994. I remember when that came out. But really, Rick's career got derailed. Like Rick was one of the greats. Rick, when you just talk about a Big Daddy Kane, a Rakim, a NWA, like Rick was seminal like that, like a Run DMC, like EPMD, like Rick was important like that and remains so. But he faced a lot. His career got derailed. He was released from prison in 1997, and then had battles with immigration because he's British. He dropped the album The Art of Storytelling in 1999, and a lot of his career, like Outkast doing their Art of Storytelling, helped introduce Rick into a new generation. And he had a couple other records. I remember Crew had a record, Just Another Case. Rick was on that. Like Rick, after he came out of jail, he started popping up on newer records. But that Outkast Art of Storytelling really helped introduce Rick into a new generation of those who might have missed him while he was in jail. And in 1999, he dropped the album the same name, Art of Storytelling, which was a solid album. Like I remember that when that album came out, like I liked it. Now 26 years later, my bad, 60 years old, Slick Rick drops his fifth album, Victory. Album released on Mass Appeal. So Nas is involved. Idris Elba, the actor, Idris Elba, the amazing actor, is the executive producer. Album features Nas and features gigs. Rick handled a bunch of the production himself, though that there is contribution from others. Q-Tip has production on the joint, and Young Guru, shout out to Young Guru. Young Guru mixed the whole thing. The project is dope. And it's the fact that Rick isn't trying to be on some young boy shit. Like, this is Slick Rick being Slick Rick. This is the veteran, not trying to fit in, being confident in the space in hip hop that he created for himself, and then existing in that space. And we talked about that over the last couple of years, like veterans being able to exist and show up as themselves. Pete Rock and Commons, the Auditorium, was one of the standouts of last year and nominated for a Grammy. Nas's kind of latest chapter in his musical career, the 6 albums he dropped with Hit Boy, just helped further his career. He won his first Grammy off the strength of those albums. He sold out MSG for the first time. So Nas is experiencing a whole nother chapter where he gets to exist as Nas. You know, artists like Killer Mike, Snoop and Dre just released last year in December Missionary, and then Snoop dropped another album a couple of weeks ago, Is It a Crime? So like these veterans, Dog Pound dropped recently. These veterans being able to show up as themselves, I think is a beautiful thing. Now, I'm gonna be real. Off of a few listens, and if I'm just being honest, this isn't Rick's best album. I'm not here to maybe convince you of that. I mean, you may think that. I don't think. I only listened to it a few times, but it doesn't strike me as like. I mean, Great Adventures of Slick Rick is just one of the all-time great albums. So, I don't think it's changing the game in that way. But by existing and being good and being solid and being a Slick Rick album, it's a win at 60 years old. On Angelic, he even raps on the hook, man. Who told me I should quit is part of the chorus on Angelic. So he's standing in it. He's aware of who he is, what's going on around him, the world around him. But he still shows up as himself. Landlord is a standout track. Classic Rick storytelling. That's probably the most classic thing that you could point to. Like, oh, this is like vintage Slick Rick, is Landlord, where he's rapping about the struggles of collecting rent from crazy tenants. Some rhymes, right? Well, it's the first of the month. Where the time went. Hello, you want to give me my rent? You 3 months behind, chick. I'm highly disappointed. Tired of hunting you down like America's Most Wanted. Now hurry up, my car's in traffic. Oh great, another excuse not to have it. And I should have probably done it in his voice. I ain't get the flow down yet. You know what I'm saying on this joint. But just the sarcasm, the wit, the humor. You know what I'm saying? It's like classic Rick. Now I'm gonna say this though. The reality is rent in NYC is higher than giraffe ass. Like rent in NYC is a problem. So if you just take this song as a story, as entertainment, man, it is dope. If people start looking at this as some type of political statement, well, that's a whole different thing. That's where it gets slippery. Like, for me, I think this is just a fun song from a perspective that you don't really think about. I don't think this becomes a thing. I wonder if it'll become a thing. I don't think so though. But Landlord is like the standout track to me. Like most like vintage Slick Rick. I also thought it was really interesting that Rick added a few hip house joints. If y'all don't know what hip house is, like in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, hip hop and house music were really intertwined. Groups like the Jungle Brothers had the record Girl I House You, Girl I House You, Bennett, Girl I House You, Bennett. Like, or Queen Latifah had Welcome to My House. Heavy D had a lot of dance vibes, but maybe Heavy D might have leaned more towards like New Jack Swing. Heavy definitely was more New Jack Swing. There's a bit of a nuance there, but that dance culture in hip hop was there. House and hip hop were definitely intertwined, and then you had more like I Got the Power by Snap, like more maybe commercial mainstream joints. Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, like Good Vibrations. You know what I'm saying? There was just a lot more house elements in hip hop, and rappers were embracing it. Now, I don't know if Rick ever did a house joint. He may have. I can't recall anything. He may have. I just off the top of my head, I can't recall. But it wasn't something he was known for. Like Jungle Brothers were known for it. You know what I'm saying? Queen Latifah dabbled in it enough that it became a standout in her catalog. But Jungle Brothers there was artists who were known for it. Rick wasn't known for that. But on this album, he has 2 records, Come On Let's Go and Cause I'm Here, and he brings a real similar vibe. And it was interesting because I don't really hear, they may be out there, but I don't hear nobody on that vibe right now. I don't hear nobody try to resurrect that hip house sound from the 90s and bring it to here. And it may be happening. I'm just saying I haven't heard it, right? So if it's happening, shout out to the artists who are doing it. But I thought it was interesting for Rick to bring that into the album. Really kind of made it feel like I was back in the day listening to a Slick Rick album, like a lot of how he constructed it. I did that as a spoken word poetry joint that really encapsulates all the trends that Rick set. So if you're interested and you're a little younger and you don't know why Slick Rick is important, just go to the Victory album. Just listen to I Did That, and he kind of runs it down in a spoken word type of way, all the trends that he set with the storytelling, with the regalness in hip hop. So if you really don't know Rick, listen to that track, and that'll be like a good, like, just introduction. Gigs sounded dope on Stress. He's on the first joint, Stress, or the second joint. The first joint is Victory, then Stress. Gigs sounded dope on it. The beat on there definitely had that late 80s, early 90s hip hop vibe. Nas showed up on Documents. Documents is like a 007 type of story. Rick actually calls himself 008. And then Another Great Adventure is produced by Q-Tip, or produced with Q-Tip, and the beat really, again, sounds like it's from that era. Definitely, again, classic. It's funny because Rick isn't, again, he wasn't clean. He wasn't like politically correct. Another Great Adventure is not politically correct. You know, back then he had a record, Treat Her Like a Prostitute was like a big album cut off of his. And, you know, in the late 80s, that kind of, you know, you get away with that. You know, I've been to Rick shows where he won't perform that record anymore. He just feels different about that record now. So I say that to say Rick has always like kind of pushed the envelope, and then, you know, time kind of changes things. But even with this album, he's maybe not saying the most politically correct things. Another Great Adventure is one of those things. So it's interesting. But I like this album for what it is. You know what I'm saying? Again, it's not my favorite Rick album. And I only listened to it for a few times. Maybe it'll grow on me. But I like that it exists. I like that at 60 years old, 26 years after his last album, Slick Rick is back, showing up like Slick Rick. He's not on the drill beat. That'd be weird. You know, still collaborating with cats who came after him, Gigs, you know what I'm saying, Nas, you know, but it still makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, it's not like Slick Rick and NBA Youngboy, you know what I'm saying, or something like that. So it's dope that a veteran artist can come in like this and exist as he is, and for that I respect it. But I just want to say a few words about it because Slick Rick was Jay-Z is my GOAT. Jay-Z is my favorite rapper of all time. But before Jay-Z, before I even knew what a GOAT was, before we was having these conversations, as a kid, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, like Slick Rick is my favorite rapper, hands down. So it's dope to see the Rulers back. All right. Let me know what you think about it if you checked it out in the comments. And, you know, we're going to talk maybe later today. Who knows? I got a couple things I want to highlight y'all about. All right. Peace.